With me today is Pakistan's top diplomat. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari is the youngest foreign minister in his country's history. If you don't know Pakistani politics and his name is familiar, it should be. His grandfather was prime minister, his mother was prime minister, and after her death, his father was president. Foreign minister, thanks for making time.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome to FB Live. Foreign Minister, you're in Washington right now. You were at the UN meetings last week in New York. You've had a busy American visit. You've also gotten some promises of aid to go towards flood relief and other related matters. I know you've spoken about some of this already, so let me just ask you this. Have you gotten what you came for?
So first of all, thank you so much for having me and for your introduction. I think you explained what's going on back home much the way I would have done. This is a climate catastrophe, but it's not just a climate catastrophe. It's already affected 33 million people, 16 million children, 600,000 pregnant women, all devastated by the flooding. We're looking at an epidemic of waterborne diseases, or what the WHO would call the second catastrophe. You've mentioned food insecurity, and to top it all off, we were in difficult economic times when we inherited power. We took tough economic decisions and put the country's economy back on track, entered into an economic program only in time for these floods of biblical proportions to come and wash away much of the figures that made up that arrangement. I am here in DC following an extensive visit to New York and the United Nations, and from our perspective, it has been positive in this sense that we've been able to highlight the plight of our country, and we're very grateful to UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, who not only visited Pakistan before the UNGA, but effectively sort of turned a lot of the GA into a lot of talk about climate, and particularly vis-a-vis Pakistan's floods, not only mentioning the issue multiple times in his own speech, but holding events on the sidelines, inviting us to, such as COP 27. And my conversations here in the United States, while initially far broader based, and we still did talk a lot about how we want to expand trade in agriculture, in tech, in health, in energy. Obviously, a large part of our conversations have revolved around the flooding back home. We're still in the initial rescue and relief phase, and we're conducting our damage needs assessment. So we've so far only launched our flash appeals, to which we've had fantastic response, not only from the United States, whose contribution for the initial round is around $60 million so far, but all of our friends going forward.
Foreign Minister, all of that's a drop in literally the
Yeah,
ocean, what you need.
that's absolutely, that's exactly the lines I use. It's all a drop in the ocean compared to what we need. Once we're done with the damage needs assessment, we'll be in a better place to understand the total damage. At the moment, it's just guesstimates, and our guesstimates are a total damage of $30 billion.
Are
In
you
that
disappointed
context,
are you disappointed by the level of support so far from the world?
no, the point I'm trying to distinguish for you here, because I understand that it's complicated, is initially there's a UN flash appeal that's done immediately to assist with the immediate requirements of relief. But the long-term reconstruction, rehabilitation conversation will require a large-scale donor conference, and we're incredibly grateful to not only the UN Secretary General, but also President Macron of France for agreeing to host and co-host those events for us. By then, we will have our damage needs assessment ready, and we'll be able to talk about the longer-term reconstruction, rehabilitation phase, which you're absolutely right, will require a lot more money.
Well, Foreign Minister, I very much hope for the people of Pakistan that you are able to raise the money you need from wherever you can. But moving a little bit into the geopolitics of this, we are foreign policy after all. I remember when Pakistan had devastating floods in 2010. And back then, I think more than 1,700 people died. America stepped in with more than, $1.3 billion in various types of aid that year. They gave a fair bit in succeeding years as well. US aid today is a fraction of what it used to be. Does it worry you that Islamabad has lost its former place in Washington? Does it worry you that Pakistan's relationship with America isn't what it used to be?
No, actually, I'm far more comfortable in our relationship today with America than we were back in 2010. I think that we were hyphenated as AFPAC and seen within the prism of Afghanistan. And with our re-engagement with the US State Department and with the US government, we've seen a sort of a more broad-based conversation that I was referring to earlier about our trade relations. Again, going back to the question of aid. Obviously, there's at the moment it's the flash appeal stage. When we get to the pledging conference and other things, we'll have more broader conversations. But to
Mm,
be realistic, we have to understand that the world has changed. It's not just
sure.
Pakistan, the US that's changed. We've seen a once in a lifetime global pandemic. We've seen the fall of Kabul. We've seen the Ukrainian crisis. It's a
Right,
very different economic space. A lot of money is being spent domestically and then on other international issues.
right.
So I don't chalk that up to sort of the position of our relationships, but I'm very cognizant going forward, not just with the United States. We're dealing with our partners across the world,
I
that everyone
understand.
is dealing with domestic economic challenges, a very difficult geostrategic place, position on the world stage, and that'll make things difficult, which is why I won't just be talking about sort of cash handouts and charity, and I'm pitching a far more broader proposal of something along the lines of a green Marshall Plan for climate stressed countries, including but not limited to Pakistan, with one amongst the 10 most climate stressed countries on the planet. All of us have contributed negligibly to
Right,
the overall carbon footprint. We all can't afford the mitigation and adaptation infrastructure that we need to deal with the times to come. There's been pledges by the international community, and they haven't been able to live up to their own pledges of coming up with $100 billion a year to
right,
tackle climate change. But I believe that we can provide solutions for that in the form of debt swaps and other such out of the box solutions, which can allow us to focus on reconstruction and rehabilitation, because it's our dream as well to be able to build back, but not only build back better, build back greener, build back more climate
right.
resilient
So, Foreman, so
manner.
I want to come back to climate change resilience later in this interview, but since I was going through the geopolitics of the situation, you mentioned the hyphenation of AFPAC, and I understand that things have changed, but if the two are now properly dehyphenated, I have to ask when America orchestrated the killing of Ayman al-Zawahiri, what level of cooperation did your country offer?
I mean, it wasn't in our country, nor was it in our information that this individual was there or that there was an operation that was going to go on to take him out.
And did Pakistan offer its airspace to America for
No,
counterintelligence?
as I said, we were not sort of aware of this. I don't think anybody
Sure.
was. He was there until after it happened.